heroism. It's the pursuit of two ideals, excellence and a higher purpose. This noble mission is not just found in Hollywood. It's a game changer for businesses devoted to it. Almost all business owners launch their company to make a difference in the world around them. Join us on the Heroic Experience as we talk with business owners, senior leaders, and established entrepreneurs so that you too can elevate your business to heroic success. Now, here's your host, John D. Hanson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Heroic Experience. We are so grateful to be sponsored by Kaufman Media. Check out their digital signage solutions and far more on their website, kaufmanmedia.com. That's spelled COFFMAN media.com. Happy to have one of my good friends, Chris Orecchio. He is the agent and owner of Shelter Insurance in our studio this morning. Grateful to have you as our guest. Looking forward to the stories we're going to talk about. We always start off the first segment, Chris, with what are some of the wow stories of clients that they didn't know you, but maybe by name, got connected with you, and they are so glad that they now receive, in this case, insurance services and far more from you. So we'd love to hear that. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, some of the stories that I have here are, they're insurance related, and some are, some of the consulting I do as well. But usually the insurance stuff is just, hey, we save them a bunch of money, and boy, are they happy.
Right.
Some of it is, they thought they were covered, particularly businesses, and that's kind of what I like to focus on.
Yeah.
And they were covered as individuals, but not as businesses, and so they got great prices, but they got some really horrible coverage.
Right. There are a lot of gaps they weren't aware of because who reads through, let alone understands every page of their declarations, right?
And they've got some risk exposure there that they weren't expecting. And,
right.
And then, there's some other stories because, the insurance stories are so riveting.
Yeah, but it's often the ones, it's what people don't know about that catches them by surprise because we're all busy, especially business owners.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just kind of going through businesses running. I've got insurance. I'm good.
Yeah.
And then when you sit down and walk through, did you know about this? Were you aware of this? What were you looking for this to accomplish? What is one story that comes to your mind of a business owner you sat down with, Chris, and as you started to unfold things, they're like, holy smokes, I didn't know that. What comes to your mind?
Yeah, that this was a roofer who had a kind of a fleet of vehicles out there on the road, being driven by other people other than himself, and just coming to realize, his personal insurance would not be covering the other drivers out there,
right?
And particularly if something significant happened on the job site itself, you got some serious risk exposure, and just wasn't ready for that, and just kind of understanding that begins to realize, that could actually level my business,
right? Financially,
one incident, one accident, one problem. So that was good. It was we averted potential disaster, and at least look at how to mitigate those risks properly. And price isn't the only thing that you need to be talking about, which is what typically people want to talk about is just price. When the conversation should really begin with what are the risks that you want to transfer to the insurance company, and then sometimes it's perfectly fine to retain some of those risks yourself, but you have to go into that with eyes open, knowing the full picture, and intentional.
And maybe being able to make an informed decision. That's where I love the people that I work with that educate their prospects and their clients, whether they ever become a client or not. I think that's part of our process too in consulting is educating the client about, where they stand, where they like to go, and where the gap is. And then they can weigh out and make an informed decision about, of the options available to us, what would you like to intentionally pursue that helps fill that gap? Maybe you can't fill all of it, because who can? Yeah. But what ones are most important to you? What's another story that comes to your mind of a business owner that once they were kind of educated on what the gap was, not just, hey, you don't have this, you need this, here's what it costs. Okay, sign the check. What was an education piece of a client that was so grateful that you walked through what they did have, what they didn't have, and their options? Did another one come to your mind?
Yeah, there is one. There are some risks out there that are difficult to measure. And a lot of small business owners also have some other ventures and interests.
More than one thing going on.
Sure, that's going on in their business, and maybe it's tied directly to their business. Maybe it's a little
completely
more
separate,
completely separate, indirect. But we kind of exposed a risk that was not a big part of their business, and it was really difficult for some of the insurers to kind of bind insurance on and take on that risk,
right?
Because it could be pretty significant. So
right.
In this particular case, it was used tires that are being stored. Those insurance companies hate that.
Right.
They don't like it.
Somewhat of a flammable risk, I guess.
Yeah, there's some surplus lines that that might be interested in taking on that, but it was such a small part of his business that he decided, we're just going to get rid of that and not even have it as part of our business. Didn't really interrupt his business, but it did allow him to be risked a little more normally from some better insurance companies, just for getting that out of the way and opening that up. And
so
he's open to some. Yeah, he's open now to some better insurances, better rates, just a better situation.
I used to think, as I've gotten connected with more professionals in the insurance industry, I realized that it can often be tailored to the individual. There's not a one size fits all package.
Right.
And if that's being offered, then speaking directly, it's lazy insurance on the part of the one that's tasked with protecting the business owner that's paying them.
Yeah.
So what's so cool about an insurance agent that really gets to know a person's business, all that's going on in their life, is that you can then craft all of these elements and put it together. They only pay one thing per month, but you're synergizing, that's a big word, but you're pulling together from all different kinds of providers a bundle or a package that best fits their needs.
Right.
You can customize it so well based on, all right, what's most important to you? What risk do you want to mitigate? What can you invest in this that you'll be able to stay with? And then everybody wins. They're covered as best they can. They're taken care of, and you earn trust from the client.
Yeah.
It's got to be rewarding.
It is very rewarding. And being a business owner myself and in other areas of business other than just insurance kind of, gives me a different perspective that I can bring to some business owners that, otherwise maybe some other agents may not have that kind of experience.
Yeah, that background is super helpful. Well, second segment, we're already up against a break. Second segment, we get to hear your story, Chris. And that's my favorite part of the show. So if you like to listen to our podcast, and thank you so much for doing that, you can find us on Google Podcasts. You can find us on Amazon Music, Podbean, Spotify, on our YouTube channel, Accelerated Revenue. You can go to our website, accrev.com, and find the Heroic Experience there. However you like to listen, tune in so we can help elevate your business to heroic success. Join us back after the break for Chris's story.
Inspire, influence, and connect your audience with digital signage. Kaufman Media offers customizable digital signage solutions designed to meet your company's specific goals. Whether you need digital menu boards for your quick service restaurant, digital displays for marketing in your retail stores, or wayfinding and unified communications for your schools, your corporations, or your healthcare facility, our customizable, affordable options and proven experience make us the only partner you'll need for your next digital signage project. Visit kaufmanmedia.com today to learn more. That's COFFMAN media.com.
Would you buy a car from a dealer without a test drive first? for your business, a consulting partner is even more important. Accelerated Revenue is excited to announce the Take Us for a Test Drive event. Receive 2 exclusive workshops on customer experience and winning culture, a customized culture snapshot, and a leadership strategy session worth over $10,000, all in for just $2,500. Best of all, when you onboard our consulting team, we'll credit you the entire $2,500. Spots are limited, so visit our website today at accrev.com/test drive.
Check out John's worldwide selling book, Wow Your Customers, 7 Ways to World-Class Service on Amazon. Now, once again, here's John.
Welcome back to the Heroic Experience, where we are proudly sponsored by Kaufman Media. Digital signage, it's everywhere around us, everywhere we go. Check out their website to learn more about how that can help your business communicate with both your external and your internal customers. Check out their website, kaufmanmedia.com. That's spelled COFFMAN media.com. Privileged to have Chris Orecchio, agent owner at Shelter Insurance, as our guest today. This is my favorite segment, Chris, because all of us get to hear your story as far back as you'd like to go. What got you to where you are today?
Well, I appreciate the introduction with the trumpets and everything. I hope live up to that standard. But there's the stories is always about, part of it's what I do, what I did.
Yes.
But really for me, the story is about, who I've had in my life. So the stuff I've done, just, quick list. Actually, my education is in physical therapy and sports medicine. I started my own practice at age 27, started a restaurant at 30. This is some of the experiences that I was talking about that I can bring to the insurance side.
Yes.
I sold both of those businesses, started another consulting and home health agency.
Okay.
I helped the Tea Party get started in Ohio, so I got to speak at some State House rallies and Voice of America Park, and that was a lot of fun. And then eventually sold that home health agency, went to work for a big corporation. So I've got the small business side, the big corporate side. And, so what I do now, obviously, I, mitigate the risks of life. And some people call that a insurance agent. That just, seems really boring. I like, mitigating life risks better. But, we do a lot of hiking. We take groups of guys on hikes on the Appalachian Trail. Really enjoy that. But really my story is kind of connected to who I was living with, who I grew up with.
Right.
And so first was my grandpa, Mike LaMotta. Great guy. This is the guy who taught me how to golf and bowl and throw a curveball and garden, and he's the one that taught me. His saying was, you have to learn how to do things poorly before you learn how to do them well. So he kind of, beat that persistence into me. And then, of course, my mom and dad. My dad had a saying that I still use today, and it was, fear no man, only God. And that taught me to be the, a little bit fearless, confident, maybe overconfident. Sometimes
young people don't seem to have that problem, because I remember that.
Yeah. He would always say things like the advantage goes to the aggressor. That was my dad. So we got, Grandpa, LaMotta, kind of balancing out Dad a little bit.
Right.
But, one of the best stories, and I think what has probably impacted me more than anything is what my wife and my kids have done to me. They've turned me from a feral animal into a fairly domesticated, hopefully, human being. But one of the stories that kind of represents that so well, I think, is my son, my oldest son, Caleb. When he was 8, he came to me and he said, "Hey, I'm getting bullied on the bus. What do I do?"
Yeah.
And of course, as a dad, I'm like, "Well, let me tell you, son. You're going to take it to him." And I was kind of telling him, how to defend himself and giving him, some of the particular details that might be helpful to him on the bus in close combat situation.
Yeah.
But so at least I don't know if I was smart enough or God kind of said, "Shut your mouth." typically I just keep talking till I think of something to say in those situations. But I was looking at Caleb, looking at his facial expression. He was kind of taking it in. And I thought, well, he's, obviously impressed by my fantastic advice. So I stopped talking and I just kind of, what are you thinking? And he looked at me and just said, no, I think I'm going to make him my friend.
What, 8 years old?
8 years old.
Huh.
And it just blew me away. So my first response was to that. I wasn't done yet being stupid. I said, well,
You're not the only one that suffers from that occasionally.
Yeah, it's chronic for me. But I said, well, what if he punches you anyway?
Right.
And he said, well, he won't. And then he just left me in the room by myself, embarrassed, feeling like a dope, mouth agape, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I'm coming to realize that my 8-year-old son has more maturity and has more compassion and has more insight and awareness than I do. And these are things that we taught our kids, to treat people as people who have been created in the image of God and have inherently infinite value. Mm-hmm. He was learning that, and I wasn't. And it impacted me. What if I took that lesson into the workplace, into my other relationships? What if I looked at people with that kind of potential and grace and mercy and had that kind of creativity? It really did change the way I went to work. It changed the way I just saw people.
Out of the mouths of children. I know that's a line that I've heard before too. What a great insight that you took and used that. I've heard quotes, and I know many people listening have too, like hurting people hurt others. Mm-hmm. And it's often things that they bring in that has absolutely nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with what they've experienced that's been difficult for them. How do you think then, as you look back on that kind of not being necessarily a pivotal moment, but a very insightful one that you then took intentional action on, as you look at your career before and you look at your career since, what do you see in that change? What do you see that's different for you and for the people you interact with?
Yeah, so I've got some stories then after that where I saw some potential in people. So this was back in my my therapy days when I was leading organizations, and there was a particular in this organization I was brought in, brand spanking new, day one, day two. We've got one of the very seasoned employees there was getting reprimanded for not following processes. And she was trying to tell him that, there were some serious things going on and that process wasn't working. Well, I talked to her for just a little bit and just listened to her, and she helped us solve a problem that the software wasn't allowing, us to track some KPIs in there that could have been serious, Medicare regulatory violations.
Yeah.
She tracked them manually because she wasn't following the process, but saved the bacon of that organization because she knew it, even though she was breaking the rules, but she did it for that organization, for the patients, for the
so
the nurses and
actively
therapists.
listening with compassion rather than going with what you think you know gave you an opportunity to support a team member that helped literally potentially save your business.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, time's up. We got to have one more segment. Join us back after the break as we talk more with Chris Orecchio.
Did you know that 70% of U.S. residents 12 and older recall seeing digital signage in the past week? Digital signage provides a 35% reduction in perceived wait time with a 30% increase in a customer's in-store browsing time. Kaufman Media offers customizable digital signage solutions designed to meet your company's specific goals. Christina said,
"We love our digital signage. The software is easy to use and we can publish content in minutes. It allows for every department to be seen and have a voice."
Visit KaufmanMedia.com today to learn more. That's COFFMAN media.com.
Attention event planners. Is your company or association planning a conference, seminar, or staff retreat? Are you looking for fresh ideas on high-demand topics like customer experience, leadership, empathy, customer service, earning and keeping trust, and more? Then you need to book John D. Hansen as your next speaker. Brooke said,
"Great presentation. John's concepts help shift my thinking. A good fit for my life right now."
read more testimonials, discover John's full list of speaking topics, check out pricing and more on our website, accrev.com/keynote.
Would you like to be a guest on the Heroic Experience? Contact us at john.hansen@accrev.com. Now, once again, here's John.
Welcome back to the Heroic Experience, where we are elevating businesses to heroic success. We are grateful to be sponsored by Kaufman Media. Digital signage, far more than that. Check out what you might not know about digital signage at kaufmanmedia.com. That's spelled COFFMAN media.com. Happy to have Chris Orecchio, the agent owner of Shelter Insurance in Marysville, Ohio, as our guest today. We've greatly enjoyed the conversation. Such great insight and a good check for me personally, Chris, about, all right, you can know a lot of things, but are you applying what you've identified as, wow, that's an important lesson in life and in business. Oh, we have so many of those that happen often on a daily basis, but certainly there's significant ones that seem to happen on a regular basis. Before we get into best way to contact and differentiators, what has been a way that has helped you apply some of those key life lessons? Like what, as you reflect back on that major thing, what helped you, all right, I'm going to take this and use this and continue on with this? What would you say?
I think it's been about having conversations with people, and then which is sometimes the part that's hard for me. The part's not the talking part's not hard for me. The being quiet and shutting up part that is a little more difficult. But that is when things are revealed, and that is where we begin to gain insight and awareness, and then we can ask some better questions. An example of that, I've got an example. In an insurance conversation, as I'm listening and asking more questions, it began to realize or to reveal, the person reveals to me that they're thinking about firing their son that's in this business with them. And we just kind of talked through that and kind of helped them see, what the future might look like in a situation like that versus the future of, pouring back into him and teaching him and giving him some different tools and experiences and kind of focusing on what he does, really well.
Yeah.
And so that was an insurance conversation.
Yeah.
But in that process, I think kind of salvaged that business relationship and certainly that personal relationship. Those were the kind of things that, the Caleb conversation, my son's conversation with me, I think just helped me to be a little more aware and vigilant in kind of helping to, bring those conversations to bear on a business, that you wouldn't, otherwise think.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of a book by John Maxwell called Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. I finished that last year. And that was a helpful thing of intentionality in what question you ask, and then actively listening. And with my younger days, it would be to respond in a way that either makes me look intelligent
right.
or to listen to respond, as opposed to listening to learn about
right.
them, about their world, about is there anything that I can share that could be helpful for them. But active listening is one of those skills that as you get better at it, it's as people of quality in particular are drawn to you and come away with any kind of conversation, as short, as brief, as personal, business, whatever, they come away with value being added to them.
And even in that process, just the asking of questions. That owner began to apply that concept to his people. And he began to realize, that, they've got some fantastic talents that, I should be tapping into that. Let them do that.
Yes.
And now I can, that's the other kind of thing that we talk to business owners about is, how they are typically neck deep in the business that they're doing as opposed to working on their business. Their business is consuming them.
Yes.
Rather than them, controlling the business and intentionally running the business. It's running them.
Yes.
And
right.
so this was another kind of one of those conversations, again, not related necessarily to insurance, but how can you run your business better and have an asset that is a sellable asset rather than just owning a job. And so these are just some of those other conversations that we can have, as and it's why I love talking to business owners from a risk mitigation perspective, but also from just how to enjoy life while you're running a business.
I think we all know in our heads, mentally acknowledge the fact that if you can help someone discover for themselves through questions, they are more likely to apply it than if you just tell them what they should do.
We know that learning is exponentially better with questions, and when the person's own awareness then is kicked in. There's a saying that awareness is curative, and that begins to change behaviors and change perspectives, and the learning just exponentially increases, not just for the business owner, but then if you can apply that to your employees as well, you're at least on a path of changing a lot of things in your business for the better.
So in our conversation, there's a lot of things that kind of jumped out to me, but what would you say, Chris, are some differentiators you have? There's literally thousands of insurance agents, hundreds within any major metro area. What are some differentiators that you have, not necessarily what you do, but how or why you do it?
Yeah, so some of those stories kind of, I think, kind of communicate that. I'm taking things I'm taking a different approach to things, and one of the things that I think has become common for insurance, and not just insurance, for a lot of things. Like I said, I was in the medical field for a while. Even physical therapy and some medical procedures have become commoditized.
Yes. Oh, I don't like commoditization. Yes.
And so that's what. But and you see that because everyone's asking price.
Right.
And what they're not understanding is, again, you can get a fantastic price.
Yes.
But what are you getting for that? And is it even useful? There's lots of people who are paying, fantastic prices.
Yes.
for coverage that is useless.
Yeah.
Or non-existent, really, for their particular situation.
They have a false peace of mind.
But they got a great price. So those, I think that's kind of what I bring to the table. I've got a lot of experience in business, and so I want to make sure that they're, for the price they're paying, they're getting the best coverage that that they could get. That they really are looking at it from a risk mitigation standpoint, as far as what risks do you want to transfer to the insurance company, and what risks do you want to retain? And again, let's look at that from an intentional standpoint, and let's let that conversation guide what we're going to do next. What are the next steps? And the next step is yours, as the customer. It's not mine. The next step is yours. But how can you make that without knowing the full picture?
Okay, we got 30 seconds left. What is the best way for people to find out more about you, contact you? How can they get a hold of you, Chris?
Probably the easiest way is just to find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
My, the name is,
very unique in
very
a good way.
Unique. Yep. Yeah. So it's Orecchio, Orecchio. There's Ohio in there on the ends, and a rec in the middle, and sometimes that's easy for people to remember. But that's probably the best and easiest way to track me down.
So find Chris Orecchio on LinkedIn if you want to learn more about what he does and why he does it and how it's different in the space. Grateful to have you as our guest. Time flies in these conversations. Join us back for the next episode of the Heroic Experience.
This has been the Heroic Experience. To learn how your business can be profitable and heroic, visit ACCREV.com. For access to free weekly content, subscribe to the Accelerated Revenue YouTube channel and follow John D. Hanson on LinkedIn. To listen to archived shows, find them on the Accelerated Revenue website under the Resources tab, ACCREV.com.